Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So Walter Hamada, since yesterday, is no longer the DC Films president. Hip hip hooray! You ain't smiling anymore. You ain't smiling anymore. Despite my urge to celebrate and rub Walter Hamada's nose in it, we mustn't forget he wasn't working alone. What happened with DC and their toxic mission to wipe out anything Zack Snyder within the DCEU wasn't just down to Walter Hamada. And Sarnoff was involved, and Toby Emmerich was the big bad boss at the end of the game. That's the truth of the situation. Walter Hamada didn't do this alone, and his strings were being pulled, as I've mentioned many times here on my channel. But Walter Hamada left a cushy job at New Line Cinema in charge of the horror division, so a job he'd done really well, to take a bigger job. As the DC Films president, Hamada is what you call a company stooge. He's a loyalist. He will do whatever he's told. So he did whatever he's told. It's interesting, actually, the list of films he's got credits on, I've probably all got, I can't remember one that is rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's look at the films he's credited with. So there's Aquaman, which I don't think he had much to do with. But anyway, Aquaman at the time was verified fresh. We're going to look at this at the time of release. So Shazam was verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. What did we have next? Joker was definitely verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, although Walter Hamada didn't believe in the movie, and director of the Joker movie, Todd Phillips, exposed that very information, because prior to that we all thought, well, Hamada's got a good record here. Maybe he's the one, an independent DC head that's doing the right things for DC, and we can just live in hope that they will restore the Snyderverse and even release the Snyder Cut, because at that time the Snyder Cut wasn't even thought about being released. Anyway, so the Joker, definitely verified fresh, just about, even though it's one of the best DC films ever made. So you have Aquaman, Shazam, you have Joker, you have the Batman, you have Birds of Prey, not a very good movie, and a very toxic message that's also bizarrely verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. We had Peacemaker, verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Wonder Woman 84, a problematic movie, also verified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure I've missed some movies out, but anyway, they're not the only name. They're not the only movies with his name on them. The Black Adam movie that's released today here in Cyprus and over the weekend globally has Walter Hamada's name on it. In 2023, Shazam! Fury of the Gods will be released. Hamada's name is on it. The Flash movie will be released next year. The huge movie that was supposed to enact Hamada's multiverse strategy definitely has his name on it. We have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Definitely has his name on it. And finally, Blue Beetle, that definitely has his name all over it. Now, I'm going to read some information from a test screening of Blue Beetle, and I think that's a good leaping on point, and then we'll get back talking about Hamada. I'm not done yet. So this is an undercover audience, and this is an account on Twitter. So, Blue Beetle, test screening, update, 1 of 2. The entire cast does an awesome job. Cast do what they're paid to do. Well, that's good, isn't it? Especially Xolo Maradona and Belissa Exorbido, who played Xolo's sis. The audience loved the sweet comedy-filled family dynamic of the Reyes family. Almost 30% of the film is in Spanish with subtitles. Now listen, if you want to make a Spanish language film that's a superhero movie, I can't oppose that. Spanish people should be able to have that. That's great inclusion. But basically, a movie that's supposed to be for English-speaking audiences having 30% of Spanish in it. I suspect Zaslav isn't having this movie. Zaslav's sending this back to the drawing board and they're going to have to rewrite and reshoot a lot of this movie. Anyway, we go on. Test screening update. Susan Sarandon nails the villainous role as Victoria Cold. Now, toxically, they created this character, Victoria Cold, and basically forgot all about the iconic Ted Cold. He is all part of the Blue Beetle iconography. So they got rid of him. Again, I think this isn't going to stand with Zaslav. George Lopez as Uncle Rudy and Adriana Barraza as the grandma have a lot of great comedic scenes which were loved. Verdict, the audience totally loved DC's first Latino superhero. Well, isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? I'm so really happy. And if this was a superhero sitcom on HBO Max, we'd all be going, yay. I haven't heard anything about the Scarab, anything about epic action sequences. Could it be they haven't even shot them yet? Who knows? As I said many times, because I've been a part of many test screenings, and it's a great experience. You're with other people who are there to see a movie, right? You're not there to enjoy something, but it's good. You get to see something that, you know, a bit early, which is fun. But you're there to be the studio's eyes and ears. You need to find stuff that you're not happy with, right? You're not looking for stuff purposely. It's not a contrived situation. If you see something that you feel is not right, you've got to tell them. It helps them. They want you to help them. This is not a celebration. Oh, wow, the actors were amazing and this actor did well. Nobody wants to hear, you know, that. Obviously, they want to know what you like. So if a majority of people like certain things, then they'll keep them in the movie. But I am concerned about this movie because I'm hearing about comedic scenes. I'm hearing about nice, cozy, fluffy family dynamics and very funny stuff. You know, this is sounding like Miss Marvel. This is the direction Hamada was taking the DC Extended Universe. And this movie originally was going to be on HBO Max away from movie theatres. Then Zaslav said before he even came to WB and before the merger was legally ratified, he said, no, I don't want anything on HBO Max. It's going through the theatrical system. So I don't believe that a lot of this stuff will stay in the movie. I think, yes, the comedy and the family stuff, it's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we can accept an element of Spanish language. I think 30% is far too much, You've got to cut that down to 10, 15, maybe 20%, 30%, 35%. Far too much. This is an English language movie. And I've seen films with a mixture of kind of foreign language, English subtitles, and it can work. But you're either a movie with foreign language and English subtitles or you're not. You can't be doing this. This sounds really messy. Look at the reviews for Black Adam. Look at the projected box office that's been subtracted now. So this movie, as it is, sounds like it's not going to do very, very well. Maybe the kind of PC critics out there will like this movie for doing this, and that will be enough. Basically, this is the direction Hamada was going in. As I say, major changes will happen to this movie. So this makes Hamada very, very problematic. And this is why I'm really glad he's gone. So, as well as having his name on all these movies, including these future DC movies coming up, starting with Black Adam, this weekend, he had many more projects to come. And we've got to get through these projects, I'm afraid. There's absolutely nothing we can do about that. But as well as all of that, he and Emmerich and Sarnoff were blocking Henry Cavill's Superman. I try and think about this really deeply, kind of the motivation of not wanting Cavill back. It's really weird. They were happy with Gal Gadot, they were happy with Jason Momoa. One of the reasons for that is everybody loved Jason's and Gal's Aquaman and Wonder Woman. And also, I think, you know, Jason and Gal were playing the game, you know. We love you and everything, Zach. We don't want to stab you in the back or anything, but, you know, we want to work in this town. And I can understand that. And I didn't expect them to say, oh, no, I'm never doing this again. Now, Ray Fisher showed tremendous loyalty to Zack Snyder. You know, everything he said about Hamada was absolutely true. I just was always confused why Ray was always going for Walter and not the others. maybe it's because Walter spoke to him and they didn't, and what he heard from him in that office was very, very dodgy. So Ray Fisher alleged, when he went into Walter Hamada, he goes, look, Walter, things that happened in the Justice League reshoots weren't good. I want action taken. I want an investigation. And so they were trying to kind of persuade him not to do that and just throw Joss Whedon under the bus. And he said, look, I don't like Joss Whedon. He didn't treat me very well. But at the end of the day, it wasn't just him. He was, he was taking orders from Jeff Johns, right? And John Berg. They need to be investigated. So allegedly, and I believe this, Hamada said to him, why don't we just throw Whedon under the bus because his name's toast anyway and leave Jeff Johns alone. Why leave Jeff Johns alone? Because some people in big business, elite business, especially in Hollywood, have so much power you can't fuck with them. The message was from Emmerich, leave Johns alone. Bury the truth about Johns. Bury what Johns was doing, whatever that was. Because I'm a big fan of Jeff Johns as a comic book writer, the job he did on Smallville, the job he's doing on Stargirl. Yes, that's how powerful he is. He's got a prominent position as showrunner of Stargirl. Think about that for a minute. So anyway, this is why Ray Fisher put up such a fight against Walter Hamada. The reason I started going against Ray and got myself blocked by Ray on Twitter was because I was really excited, because at the same time, to distract from all this negative news, they decided to start announcing that the Flash movie was coming. They were doing a multiverse strategy. They were going to make everything and anything in DCEU or DC live action basically canon to the DC Extended Universe. So this was really, really exciting. Then we found out the Snyder Cut was being released and Zack announced that, and we thought, well, they're doing a multiverse strategy. Zack's coming in. Then we started to find out that they wanted to dissolve Zack's universe, which didn't make sense because there's a fandom there for it. It's popular. And I mean, it can't be any less popular than, some of the other stuff they were bringing back, aka the 1960s Batman and Robin show, which I think there's even a little cameo for in the Flash movie. I don't know how they're going to do it, probably with CGI, if it's even still in there. So it seemed all very weird why they hated Snyder. Well, they hated Snyder because them and Snyder had a little, back and forth, and they just wanted rid of Snyder because Snyder doesn't take any notes. Snyder just wants to do what he wants to do. And as I said the other day, when you're like that, it's very difficult to work on a big IP with a big studio. So anyway, there was bad feelings there because Emmerich was only there since like 2017, after Snyder was removed from, doing his DCEU after BVS. He was removed off of Justice League. And so Walter Hamada inherited this shit and he had to deal with it. So even though the original shit wasn't his fault, he didn't decide to bring Snyder in or Nolan in, he had to clean it up. But he was under orders. So even though Walter Hamada acted improperly himself, he was under pressure from other people. So basically, we start the DCEU off with this kind of, auteur director who's got this indie kind of style for the DC Extended Universe. I personally like it, but we've discussed this before. It didn't work for, a mainstream audience. And I think that's where the problem is. But anyway, so they were going down this different direction. Ray Fisher kept on shouting during the build-up of the Snyder Cut. Zack was exposing more things. It became very, very ugly and very, very negative for the fans. We all took our different sides. And DC fandom became even more toxic, if that's possible, than usual. The story of the DCEU behind the scenes and with the fans actually is probably more interesting than the actual films, and the films are awesome. So the DCEU is just a fascinating franchise, and in about 200 years, people will be talking about this on videos such as this. So all a bit messy in the end, and Hamada was blocking Cavill coming back. I'm sure he was blocking a lot of things coming back. But answer me this, why wasn't he blocking Ben Affleck being in the Flash movie? Because they were going to use the Flash movie to strand him on another timeline, on another Earth. And it seemed like Affleck was quite happy to do this. They were giving him the opportunity to say goodbye as Batman and to his Batman fans. But Cavill wasn't getting this opportunity. So whatever Cavill did really pissed them off. And I'm assuming it's the fact that he came with a pitch which they found it offensive. I don't know what happened there. So that's interesting. And we don't know what that pitch is right now. It'll be interesting if Warner Brothers Discovery take up that pitch. I think there's going to be a plan. There's going to be a new head of DC Studios. Whatever they say goes. But obviously, they are going to want Superman as part of that. Superman comes as the package now. Zaslav has ordered it. You know, this is why he's in this post-credit scene looking like the way he is. They want to make a more traditional Superman with Henry Cavill. So, Walter Hamada is finally gone, but he leaves behind these upcoming DC movies, which are his babies, which, in a way, all of them, at one point or the other, will have to go back and do some reshoots and some rewrites. And we'll see how all this works out, because, you know, they can blame him. You know, we don't know. Are they going to lose money on these movies? What's Black Adam going to do over this weekend and in the next 3 or 4 weeks? But at the end of the day, this is the DCEU that Walter Hamada set up. And this is where we are now. But I think we can look forward to a very exciting future. But yes, he's gone. But people shouldn't assume anything. Don't you be thinking what you see on these little pro-Hamada DC accounts, DCEU accounts, means anything. Because he's gone now. Like this, like this leaker for test screening saying everyone loves Blue Beetle. This guy sounds like really like a shill. It could be just like another DCEU shill talking shit, because many of them do. Because last week they tried to say that Hamada might stay, and I reiterated that information, and I actually said I wouldn't mind him staying because at least there'd be some consistency. I think I was wrong to say that, and I think it's good that he's gone personally. I wasn't very passionate about him staying, but I think if he did stay, I just would have accepted it. Some people wouldn't have done. And maybe that's right, wrong, whatever, right? At the time, that was my opinion. But what you mustn't assume now is that they're going to keep anything that Hamada had in play. So basically, anything Hamada did could go. So he was responsible for Batgirl. That went just like that. Blue Beetle, if it is ever released, will have to go through major changes, as I've already said. The same with the Flash movie, that's already gone through major changes, by the way. And Mike DeLuca is already in charge of reshoots, kind of instructions for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Right now, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is having some reshoots, and Amber Heard is nowhere to be seen. That's not a surprise because her role in the movie was shrunk by Hamada already. So changes to these movies are going to happen. Now, you would imagine that these movies will be released. What we don't know, even when and if these movies are released, and you assume that they're all going to be released, like Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, all these movies, we're going to assume that they're all coming out, right? But that doesn't mean this DCEU continuity is part of the future of a new, bright and exciting DC Extended Universe. Because after this final movie is released, and I think the final Hamada movie is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom at the end of this year, right? When that's done, it's done. It's over. Now, clearly they're doing these reshoots as well, so everything can click in with the new release schedule, because it was a little bit different before. So basically, everything has to click in. If you come after the Flash movie, then you have to be part of the new timeline. And it could be a new timeline of a new timeline. Who knows what the plan is now? One of those plans is for Superman to be a Flashpoint Superman. That's obvious, and that's been reiterated to me by a multiple amount of sources. That Superman you saw in the post-credit scene, I'll repeat again, isn't Zack Snyder's Superman. He's a Flashpoint Superman, and Sasha Calle is a Flashpoint Supergirl. And they're basically going to be a team, and I think they'll both be in this so-called Man of Steel sequel, but it's not a Man of Steel sequel. The Superman movie they're talking about isn't a sequel to Man of Steel. It's basically going to be its own thing, part of the new DC Extended Universe. And that's the plan, and it's very, very exciting. Now, I don't know if I want John Williams' theme playing over this Superman, played by the same actor, that played Zack's Superman. I don't know if that disorientates me a little bit. Let's be clear about the John Williams theme. It's a pop culture icon, as is Superman the movie. The first movie I ever saw. I love that fucking theme. There's no reason, I've got no agenda not to want that theme over Henry Cavill kind of sequences or movies or cameos. The point is, we're kind of used to him having the idea of hope, and that's the thing. Even the spit curl, does it suit him? I'm not so sure yet. I'm going to have to get used to it. And even the new costume, I think it's going to have to be refined in his movie and in future cameos. I'm not sure if that's the right suit or not. There's something not quite right about it. I don't hate it, by the way, but I think I can get used to it anyway. So these things are going to need getting used to. But I'm happy for him to be a Flashpoint Superman if that's what they want. They clearly don't want that Superman, the Zack Snyder Superman, which means they don't want the Snyderverse. Because I can't see, because this post-credit scene with Superman, yes, I spoiled it for you. You know anyway, right? It's not Zack Snyder's Superman. You don't even have to analyse it or look at it again and again or very deeply. It's not Zack Snyder's Superman. He's got a spit curl. He's got John Williams' theme. He's not wearing the black suit. They had an opportunity to have the Superman in the black suit there, and they didn't. That could have been a big announcement that they were restoring the Snyderverse. They don't want to do it. They don't believe in it. They don't think it's the right direction. That's the end of it. If they do announce they're restoring the Snyderverse, it will be a shock, and I'll be happy. I'm not against that. I just don't think they're going to do it. Which basically means, after the Flash movie, this isn't really the DCEU continuity anymore. That continuity is dead. What that means is they can delete any fucking thing they want. As I said previously, when Hamada was the DC Films president. Now Zaslav has got his fingers on the chicken switch, which is even better, much better. Because Hamada being involved isn't better at all, as we've already seen. He's part of that Toby Emmerich kind of leadership. We don't want that leadership. They've all gone. Zaslav has fucking got rid of all of them. So it's very interesting as well, because AT&T, Warner Media in other words, were having a civil war between Warner Brothers Pictures. And John Stankey, the CEO of AT&T, just couldn't beat them, couldn't sack them. I don't know why, what the problem was. So he goes to David Zaslav and says, I don't know what I'm going to do. And they come up with this idea of doing a merger, and for some reason, Zaslav was able to get rid of Emmerich, Sarnoff before he even turned up, and eventually Walter Hamada. These were three major players. There is now no one of any consequence that can stop Zaslav doing what he wants. So this all started with the civil war between Warner Media, aka AT&T, and Warner Brothers Pictures. It was a toxic situation. We have now got a healthier situation. Or is it a healthier situation? Some say not, because Zaslav now is in charge of everything. The good thing is, he's desperate to make the studio money. He's going to do the right things. To make this studio money, you need a successful DCIP. To make this studio successful, you need a successful Harry Potter IP. They don't have neither yet, but Zaslav will get there because he's a very successful, intelligent man. He's brought on Alan Holt, the former CFO of Warner Brothers from years ago, and they got rid of him. If they kept Alan Holt there, we probably would have had Bob Iger, and we would have become the success story and not Disney. Think about that for a minute. But anyway, the nightmare is over. We are getting a brand new Superman played by the original actor, Henry Cavill. We are getting a Flashpoint Supergirl. Everyone's going to be Flashpoint, basically. And I don't know what they're planning for Batman, and it's kind of exciting now to kind of realise what they're going to do. So don't make any assumptions. Hamada's plans are dead. His films are still coming out, but they're messing with those films, thankfully, all the time. Now, the only thing we need to find out is who the new DC Studios president is. So, I can hazard a few guesses. I've heard a few whispers. If it's the person that I've been told it is, it's going to break social media. It'll probably break my laptop here as well. Please don't break. I really need it badly. Anyway, so look, that's the only piece of the jigsaw puzzle we need now. And so once that thing is in place, then it's even more exciting. Because I think DC and WB in general, even though it sounds a bit gloomy at the moment, have got a great future under Zaslav. But Zaslav has to sort out the mess. When you have a party at home and your mum or dad's trying to clean it, right? It's a big fucking mess. There's beer cans everywhere, crisps on the floor. It takes a while to get it clean. This is what Zaslav's attempting to do with WB. So I have faith in him to sort it out. Why was Hamada forced to stay up until the release of Black Adam? Because basically, if it's the person I think it is, Zaslav knew who he wanted to be DC Studios president from even before he came in. He knew that person couldn't be announced and take that job until after Black Adam was released, so he forced Hamada to stay. So I would say by the end of next week, we will have the announcement of who is the new DC Studios president. And how exciting is that? The future is bright. The future is Zaslav. And what does that mean? You are going to find it out in about a week's time. Who would you like as DC Studios president? A popular choice is Peter Safran. Now, Peter Safran runs a production company that helps make DC movies. This has been the case since Walter Hamada came in. Now Hamada is gone, will Safran still be involved? Now, we've all seen Peter Safran in interviews. Sounds like a very intelligent gentleman, knows what he's talking about, and, has been able to, bring in people like James Gunn, etc., etc. So he seems like a very steady Eddie, and he seems like a good public speaker. I've seen him on the BTSs of my Blu-rays, my 4Ks. He seems like a good guy. So from the outside looking in, he would be interesting, but what does he know about DC? So I'm not just going to say that's who I want. So there's different figures that different fans want. Now, if it's the person I've been told it is, it's none of the people that you've named. So think about that, and maybe you can tag me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad and make sure it goes on my main public page. Don't DM me, that's boring. So I want people to see that you've tagged me and that, I'm a little bit popular. Oh, everyone needs a bit of attention, right? I need it. I have an ego. I apologize. So why don't you at me at Movies TV Man and let me know who you want to be the new DC president. So finally today, as we know, The Rock has been very vocal with the publicity and marketing for Black Adam and his talk about the future and filling out the DC universe. Not that he's really going to have a big say in the matter, unless this movie suddenly makes $2 billion, which it will not. It'll be lucky to even make $1 billion, which it will not, unless a miracle happens, and that would be amazing. Anyway, one of the things he said was that the reason Superman was in Black Adam was, he said, that's the reason I'm doing this, so Black Adam and Superman fight. Well, a journalist asked him, about that again, and he kind of said something a little bit different, but I'm happy about this. And actually, everyone came after me when I said there's not going to be a Black Adam versus Superman movie where they fight for 2.5 fucking hours, right? And basically, The Rock kind of confirms this. Again, your boy is right. Anyway, it's never been about a one-off or just about a fight. There you go. We really want to craft a long form of storytelling and show that these two characters exist in the same universe and are going to have to deal with each other often. So, in the comics, the Black Adam before has joined the Suicide Squad. He recently, in one comic, he was part of the Justice League as well. So we could see this kind of anti-hero because he's not the villain of the comics. He was a villain, he's an anti-hero in the DC Extended Universe. Because he's an anti-hero, he could actually end up being part of the Justice League as well, which would be more exciting than just seeing him throwing fists in one movie. Although, as exciting as that would be, the same accusations would be made by Rotten Tomatoes verified critics that it's just an action, loud movie. These are the things they're saying, right? This is the reason the Rotten Tomatoes scores are not very high. It doesn't even look like the movie's going to be verified fresh. It looks like it's going to be verified rotten. That's sad, but as we keep on saying, as I said yesterday in my inspirational call to action, go and watch the movie if that's what you want to do. Enjoy it for what it is, because it is an enjoyable movie. You are good. Listen, if you're a comic book fan, if you're a geek or a nerd, you will like this movie. It is not boring. It is an exciting movie. It's not Shakespeare. It's not Sir Lawrence of Arabia. It was never meant to be that. I don't know why critics have decided that that makes it a bad movie. But anyway, that's up to them. They don't define what we think. And if we support the movie, it makes more money. And if you want these two to fight, this movie needs to make as much money as possible. And so, yes, I was right. There was never going to be a Black Adam versus Superman movie. As interesting as that sounds, it just wouldn't fucking work. Look what went wrong with BVS. Everyone thought that was going to be a 2.5-hour fucking brawl, and it was a 9-minute brawl, which was long enough for me, but some people were very disappointed because people were made to believe by the studio this whole film was a beat-em-up. And I mean, I'd love to see a beat-em-up, a superhero, supervillain beat-em-up for 2.5 hours, 90 minutes or whatever, like an Injustice game. That would be awesome. And maybe we can do that when the DCEU has kind of established itself as a reliable franchise with kind of, customer loyalty. And at the moment, it hasn't earned the right to get loyalty from the consumer. It doesn't have that consumer loyalty yet, but it hasn't earned that right. So, there are your updates in the DC live action universe. It's a wonderful time to be a fan. It's a wonderful time to be alive. And now that Hamada is gone, finally, we can have someone in charge that's the right person for the job. So we hold our breaths and wait till next week to see who that will be. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I will see you again in the next video. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.